Tonight on Juneteenth, Fox 61 celebrates Freedom Day. History is made in Connecticut.
I think Juneteenth is more than a holiday. It's a holiday where we got to remember what it means.
For the first time, Juneteenth is now recognized as a state holiday and a federal holiday.
By making Juneteenth a federal holiday, all Americans can feel the power of this day and learn from our history.
Exploring Connecticut's own dark past and how students are playing a pivotal role in honoring the lives of those who were enslaved in the state. And Juneteenth becomes more than a lesson inside local classrooms. Plus, we'll show you how new traditions are being created in communities across the state through music, fellowship, and culture. Those stories and more tonight as Fox 61 celebrates Freedom Day. Well, thank you for joining us for a very special program, Juneteenth, Fox 61 celebrates Freedom Day. I'm Unqua Sonia. And I'm Sarah Sanchez, and feel free to join the conversation right now throughout this special. It's happening on social media. We're using the hashtag Fox61 Juneteenth. You can also scan the QR code right at the bottom of your screen, and you can use the camera app on your smartphone. You know, Juneteenth has been celebrated in the Black community for a long time. It's a day for healing, advocacy, and resiliency. But for many Americans, they're still learning and they're understanding. Juneteenth is not just a Black holiday, but an American holiday. Carmen Chow explains its significance.
Open a U.S. history book, and chances are its author will quickly point out January 1st, 1863, the date President Abraham Lincoln, with one proclamation, orders and declares that all persons held as slaves shall be free. What that same history book might fail to mention is what happened to these words once they arrived on the shores of Galveston, Texas. More than 2 years after Lincoln wrote them in the 1860s, word didn't travel like it did now. And in 1865, months after General Robert E. Lee's surrender, word of the end of the Civil War had yet to hit the southern state in its 250,000 slaves. And then came General Gordon Granger's arrival in Galveston, June 19, 1865. And General Orders Number 3, all slaves are free. Juneteenth was born, while Juneteenth celebrations continued to varying degrees in the U.S. for decades. It would take until 1980 for Texas to become the first state to declare it a holiday. On June 17, 2021, President Biden signed a bill making Juneteenth a federal holiday. And on June 10, 2022, Governor Ned Lamont held a bill signing ceremony in New London, making Juneteenth a new state holiday.
Now, while you just heard us talk about the history of Juneteenth, we'd be remiss if we didn't introduce you to this living legend. Her name is Ms. Opal Lee. She's known as the grandmother of Juneteenth. The Fort Worth, Texas native led the charge to make Juneteenth a federal holiday. And every June 19th every year, Ms. Lee marches 2.5 miles to raise awareness. Her life's work is pretty remarkable, and at 95 years old, she's not done yet.
These small things add up. If a lot of us do it, we will make ourselves the best nation in the world.
Some incredible words of wisdom from Ms. Opal there. And now to education, where schools across the state are marking Juneteenth with special projects and lessons. But for years now, districts have been working more and more to incorporate Black history into their everyday curriculum. Fox 61's Angela Bavaro has that story from Bloomfield.
Inside the walls of the Craig Anna Grace Academy of the Arts, the lessons around Black history take on many lives.
We had a week, Black History Week. That's when everything was infused, right? And during that week, and now we have a month, but it's no longer a month. It's every day now.
The lessons in this classroom set to the beat of a drum.
We was playing, and we was playing different cultures. We was playing Latin, we was playing like African drums, we was doing this and that. And by the end of the class, I didn't want to leave.
We teach the children different disciplines of African drumming, using djembe drums, using kunga drums. All drums originated in Africa.
Lance Kamau James is a music teacher at the middle school with a focus on African drumming and world drumming.
And they're learning how to communicate with each other in a community. So we set the drums up in a circle. Every day we do a song called Funga Alafia, Ashe Ashe, which means welcome, we come in peace.
Upstairs in the visual arts room, the lessons by Dylan Friedman are just as hands-on and a little more colorful.
We infuse Black history into some of our lessons. This time around, we actually had Mr. Kamau, who told us about the Amistad Project, and we did a little research on a famous Black ship captain. And so we looked up, William Shorey is his name. He was born in 1859, and we thought he was interesting. He was a whaler, so he had the first all-Black crew, whaling crew in the Caribbean. So it was really neat, we liked him, and so we painted him.
Each stroke painting the bigger picture.
It teaches us that everybody is equal here and about what happened in the past and that people are still fighting for their rights.
Bringing to life the stories that have rarely been told in history class.
It is a lot. There is a lot because, there's a lot of things you have to correct that we're correcting as we go along. Because history was written by the people who created the history, basically, right? So it's their history. So now we're saying, well, that didn't happen like that. Here's how it really happened.
That's a mission shared at the state level as well. Public Act 19-12 made Connecticut the first state in the nation to require all high schools offer an elective course on African American, Black, Puerto Rican, and Latino studies. High schools had the option to offer the course this year, but must offer it starting next school year.
We had some national reviewers, and we got some great feedback. The way it is, well, first off, it has to be taught by a social studies teacher, okay? Because at base, it's a history course.
A history course that digs deeper.
In the first semester, they're talking about African kingdoms that they never knew that even existed. So this is, to me, the fascinating and very important thing is, kids have had, in many cases, U.S. history, but this specific approach to U.S. history, an angle to U.S. history, is very new for kids and, quite honestly, for some teachers.
Why is it important? Identity matters. To see yourself in a curriculum, it's important to see yourself in history.
And seeing that reflection has schools doing their own reflections.
And I think that also served as sort of a catalyst for us to see what is missing in our regular U.S. history.
Ensuring the beat goes on every day. Angelo Bavaro, Fox 61 News.
So let's take a closer look at the Juneteenth flag. It was created in 1997 by Ben Haith, the founder of the National Juneteenth Celebration Foundation. Its colors, red, white, and blue, are intentional. They're the same colors as the United States flag. A reminder that those who were enslaved and their descendants are free Americans too. The curve represents a new horizon, and the nova, or new star, in the center represents a new beginning for Black Americans. And speaking of new beginnings, after many enslaved people were emancipated, they were often forgotten. Their lives and their stories were never shared. But one Connecticut nonprofit's mission is to restore the history and honor the lives of enslaved people in Connecticut. Fox 61's DeAndrea Turner unveils how Witness Stone's project and the New Haven Museum are collaborating to shine a light on the forgotten.
The history here at the Party Morris House, well, it's evident. But today you'll be learning about two people who also walked these same floors, whose stories were yet to be told.
There are no paintings, there are no drawings. This memorial is the only thing to remember Pink and Stephna Primus.
We only have information regarding their lives from a legal perspective.
The two were not included in the often told history of the Party Morris House until 2021.
The idea was to look into the family's history, see if they owned anybody enslaved, and then try to tell their stories.
And that's how Pink and Stephna were discovered. They were husband and wife. This was their home until they were emancipated.
They were owned by the Morrises. They were eventually freed, and they took up residence here in this part of the city.
Stefna was freed in 1796 and Pink in 1800. They were two of more than 10,000 slaves in Connecticut before slavery became illegal in the state in 1848.
There was a different oppression up here than there was in the South, and to be able to tell that story is important.
And none of this would have been possible without the help of students. Witness Stone Research and Students Research helped bring this piece of history to life. Students like these three, who were in 7th grade when they shined a light on a dark part of history.
It feels amazing to do something that, being in a museum, it's gonna outlive myself and the people I've worked with.
It took the girls 2 months to research and write the project.
We were able to really focus on one person and tell their specific story, which I think a lot of time we just know their names, but we really know Pink's story.
Reaching beyond the realm of the classroom to find answers about the past.
Just being able to even go through the documents, it was like, wow, there's so much of this stuff that you can't put it right into a textbook.
Tying parts of Connecticut's history to the story of America.
I think a lot of time we almost place slavery as a Southern issue, and we really need to remember that it is an American issue, and it was the North and the Midwest both benefited from slavery, and to be able to remember people who were on this land right here is very important.
Take a walk through time with the help of this research and learn about the lives of Pink and Stefna on Juneteenth at the Party Morris House.
I didn't think it was appropriate to do anything but lift up those voices on a holiday like Juneteenth.
In New Haven, DeAndrea Turner, Fox 61 News.
We have much more ahead still as Fox 61 celebrates Freedom Day. How were you feeling when you heard these conversations going on?
Frustrated.
Coming up, join me for a candid conversation at the state capitol on the journey leading up to our new state holiday. Plus, Jubilee Day will show you how some local communities plan to celebrate Juneteenth for the very first time.
And still we rise, still we rise. Chains and bigotry will no longer keep us bound. The fight still continues even after the trumpet sounds. We'll keep marching until justice rolls down like mighty streams of water. We'll fight and fight, for a new day has begun. We will ascend triumphantly as children of the sun. We've been liberated, still needs to be appreciated. We shouldn't be deprived of wins because of the color of our skin, so we'll press forward, proclaim freedom until victory is won. Until victory is won. Until victory is won.
Yeah, hey, cops pull up, hop out and yell, lay flat. You better pray your child ain't who they aimed at, or prepare a funeral, especially if they black. These realities we face, even more we face facts. I wanna be rich forever like homes in the Maybach. Only thing guaranteed is you die and you pay tax. To make America great, take more than a red cap. Forget politicians, cause most what they say be cap. Why people think you gotta answer questions they ask, like they paying for rent or they paying for gas. Before pandemics, people been wearing masks like they are who they are, but really displaying half. Sometimes I'm so hurt I don't know what to say. Sometimes I'm so hurt I don't know what to say. One time for Mike Brown, one time for Freddie Gray. So many names, not enough time to say. It's Juneteenth. Let's celebrate. Let's celebrate.
Well, that was Hartford's very own Reach the People with their song Today, performed over at Parkville Sounds in downtown Hartford. And June is also Black Music Appreciation Month, and music plays a major role in Black culture. If you attend a Juneteenth celebration, there's a good chance you'll hear music in the air. Raquel Harrington shows us how local communities are celebrating, and for some, it's for the very first time.
One word, 10 letters, Juneteenth. For some, it's new.
I get to learn more about things that I didn't learn about in school because it wasn't taught when I came through school.
It means that we need to learn more.
For others, it's a reminder that hits home.
What it means to me is the real ending of slavery here in America.
finally, freedom.
Specifically, I think of the Black community's fight for equity and freedom in America.
I think of heritage and I think of history.
A history dating back 157 years that commemorates the end of slavery.
This is part of the history of this country, and we can't, erase it. We can't sweep it under the rug. We just have to be open and honest and deal with the good things and also the difficult things that are part of this history.
This is why celebrating and acknowledging the day is vital. You see, since its inception, many commemorated it by praying for remaining relatives that may have been separated during slavery. But it has since evolved with entertainment and so much more. And while it's gained more recognition across the country, many communities are concerned that it's becoming commercialized, not in a good way.
It's good that it's become a federal holiday. That's a good thing. What's not good is when this holiday becomes gentrified, or there are different ways that now Black culture is, being monetized in a way that's not benefiting Black communities.
Like Walmart's infamous Juneteenth ice cream and holiday decoration that drew backlash across social media. And despite this, communities are finding ways to honor the day appropriately. The town of Granby is one of them, gearing up for its first ever Juneteenth event with vendors, food, speakers, and more for all to enjoy.
What the key element here is throughout the entire day, there's going to be a sense of community, that we can celebrate all of these things together as a group. And that brings us together, and it makes us learn, and it makes us move forward in a positive way.
These are the same sentiments for the town of East Hartford as it also prepares for its inaugural Juneteenth event on Saturday.
It is not just a time to cook out, a time to celebrate, a time to have bounce houses and activities and fun. It's really a time to recognize the true ending of slavery.
There will be vendors of color, activities, and educational performances while learning about the country's collective history. The other goal is to educate and inspire.
The important thing that we can take away from this celebration or observation is the history of a people who had been oppressed, but yet their resilient spirit still resides today, and it is an encouragement to us today.
Raquel Harrington, Fox 61 News.
So whether we acknowledge it or understand it, in the spirit, we celebrate Juneteenth all year round.
Up next, a power discussion with members of the state legislature surrounding Freedom Day. As we reflect on this Juneteenth weekend, I had a chance to sit down with 5 state representatives, and we had a very candid conversation about where Connecticut came from as a state, where it's going, and what more it needs to do. Thank you all for joining us. Representative Reyes, I'm sure you were in the room when the bill came to the House to make Juneteenth an official holiday. Can you walk us through that process?
So I was able to listen intently to all the perspectives that people took on this. And I was amazed, to be honest with you, about the number of people that honestly spoke about not even knowing what Juneteenth was about. And I was a little bit taken back by some of the comments, and the reference to about the cost of the holiday, in my mind, is part of reparations. You have to start reparations. You have to have those hard conversations.
Representative Nolan, I'd actually to follow up on that a bit. How were you feeling when you heard these conversations going on?
Frustrated that people still have the mentality to think that a holiday like this is not important to people of color, Black people.
Let me ask this, because all of you represent an important part of the American political process. But I'm pretty sure, Representative Paris, you would believe me and echo this when I say that a lot of people who look like us are very dissatisfied with the way that things have happened. They say that change is happening way too incrementally for the amount of damage that's been done and needs to be reversed. So I'd like to go down the line and ask each and every one of you, what do you have to say to them? Why should they believe in this process? What's the point of them showing up to the polls or being active in their communities?
Well, unfortunately, America is not ready for equality as much as they say they are. And we have to push the issue, the envelope, if you might say, to ensure that the equalities that are needed to happen. And unfortunately, it's a step-by-step process. We are still struggling to get the basic needs that some of us need in our poor communities. But until that happens, the fight is going to be on. And we're going to make sure that equality comes. And if we have to put faces of color in here to make it happen, then that's what we'll do. And I think that's what the fair is. So they give us these little baby steps, and we appreciate it. But you have to expand the horizon to make sure that we get some it's just equality.
I come from poverty. I know my neighborhood that I grew up in is now part of I-84. That was the first time that happened to me. I've moved twice in my life because of gentrification. And this is a systematic way of herding people out. It's happening right now in the southern part of Connecticut, where the very folks that are on the waterfront, when they take their neighborhoods out and now they build these high-rises, the people that were living there are never going to be able to get back in there. It's happening in Norwalk, Westport, Stamford, New Haven. This is, again, going into poorer neighborhoods, and now these people are filtered out throughout the different cities and towns, and you diluted the voting power of those particular areas. And that's why I think I focus on civic engagement and the voting right. The ballot is the strongest tool we have to make sure we continue to get people in here that will continue to fight this fight that we're fighting right now.
Representative Porter?
Yes, I think when I hear people talk about not having faith in, politics and politicians and the government, especially young people, that actually encourages me, because I believe it's going to be a Joshua generation that brings us out of this mess. It is going to be the young people that are willing to not only think outside the box, but move outside the box. And everything happens with leadership. And if we can be the kind of leaders that attract and draw these people, these young people, people of color, Black, Latinos, that want to see change, you have to be that change. Change makes people uncomfortable. Because folks, it's easy to be status quo. It's just easy. There's no labor in that. It's easy to fit in. But I've always told my kids, I don't want you fitting in because you can force a fit. I need you to get in where you belong, because I believe we all have a place of belonging.
Sorry, I got to follow that, Representative Gibson.
This whole thing about Juneteenth is fighting for what's right for our people and honoring our ancestors. Rep. Reyes, he's the chair of the Black Political Caucus, I'm the vice chair. He mentioned Public Act 1912. A few years ago, we passed that. That is the teaching of Black and African American, Puerto Rican, Latino studies in our schools, right? And so we are doing what we need to do for our state to make sure our kids know their history.
Representative Paris, we'll close with you.
I quit. That was hard. I often tell people I don't want equality, I want equity.
Amen.
I keep thinking to myself some days where I get really exasperated by this work. If I don't like the justice system, become a judge. If I don't like the political system, be in politics. If you don't like how your kids are learning, be an administrator, be a teacher. Because that's what the promise of our future is. It lies within being able to roll up your sleeves and really change the system.
See why we need young people?
Powerful words.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for taking this time to spend with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And one final note, the last representative that spoke, Corey Paris, he's actually the grandson of slaves. So this was very, very important for him to pass.
That's really powerful stuff. All right, that's going to do it for us here tonight. If you enjoyed this special, you can catch it all again on Fox 61 Plus.
And there you'll find the complete discussion I had with the state representatives, along with the complete musical performance by Reach the People.
So please keep the conversation going and make sure to tell a friend. Thanks for joining us.